So this is what the west side of the Capitol looks like. Mr. Speaker, thank you. Thank you to the senators who came over. After months of saying he would not, President Biden now has done what we all knew he would do: sit down and negotiate with Speaker McCarthy and the representatives of the people. This is not surprising because Americans saw Republicans pass a common sense, responsible fiscal path forward for America and realized that the only person talking about default is President Biden. Now the president says we must trade away all but perhaps the most basic of reforms that we passed in the bill. But throughout his posturing, the president has failed to realize the most fundamental and important truth: that the core of this debate is not whether the federal government will default on its debt. It won't. But whether we will continue to allow this nation to default on the American dream. The truth is, the dream is out of reach for too many Americans. And the biggest obstacle is the very government entrusted to protect it. So we gather here today on a bicameral basis to send a message to the president. This legislation is purposeful, not political. We stand for the hardworking American family unable to afford groceries, gas, housing, or health care because of inflation fueled by trillions of dollars in reckless spending. The plumber that never took out a student loan but is now being forced to pay for his neighbor's master's degree, or the veteran paying for a liberal arts major to get the same student loan benefits he earned by risking his life for his country. The nurse who wants to save lives without a federal bureaucrat saying she has to take a needle. The blue-collar workers watching their way of life sacrificed to the altar of climate fetish, while billions of tax dollars of corporate tax credits go to crony subsidies in the so-called Inflation Reduction Act. The rancher in Texas putting diesel in his truck but forced to subsidize a tech worker making six figures to buy a Tesla hundreds of miles away. Minority and poor taxpayers trying to make ends meet that an expanded IRS audits 3 to 5 times more than other Americans. We're standing up for the Americans who simply want their country back. And all they ask is that we stop recklessly spending money we do not have, racking up debt, weakening the dollar, driving up inflation, all to fund the very bureaucracy weaponized against their way of life, as we saw yesterday unfold regarding the FBI. We passed the Limit, Save, Grow Act to do just that, to shrink Washington and grow America. We did our job. Now it's time for the president to do his. Mr. Speaker.
Well done, Jim.